So, first lesson I learned after spending a lot of time reading books, meeting with people, and then finding one of the most prominent political economy journals like Journal of Peace Research, Journal of Conflict Resolution, one of the most prominent journals, A category journals, which were allocated to the issue of international and um, international conflicts, civil war literature, and then I would say, oh, so military is actually a strategic asset. And what is happening in Europe, where as an economist I mean, people would not really be convinced that because Europe is a peaceful, because of the European Union and their this uh, uh, for after World War II, they have constructed a society which does not really consider that there could be war on site, around any of the peripheries of Europe. But then the Ukraine and Russia conflict have changed the whole dynamics, and every European country is spending a lot on defense expenditure, on defense, and thereby defense expenditures are really very high. And same is represented in Pakistan historically. So what really the specialized knowledge where defense expenditure is not really non-development expenditure. It crowds out private investment. Non-development expenditure crowds out private investment, and it will lead to higher fiscal deficit, and then it can even lead to higher inflation. But military defense, having a strong defense for your country through investing in the armed forces to increase their capability, and then strengthening the quality of your defense is a very wise and very relevant policy option. So defense expenditure is explained not in economics as such, and same Middle East being explained through point resource curse. I mean, this is the word has been used, the Gulf countries, because what they say that they don't have represent sustainable economic processes or well-developed markets, but they are they depend on oil exports, whereas in reality so many decades have passed since this term that resource curse was introduced, whereas in reality Middle East is represented, Kingdom Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Qatar, and there are so many other countries and regions within Middle East that they are thriving economies. They have implemented governance policies through some great business and entrepreneurial strategies, where they are business hubs of the world. Dubai, especially the business hub. Saudi Arabia, Riyadh is becoming a business hub. So this is it's a great story. And then about democracy, democracy. Every country, this one linear argument that democracy and have development. Economists will never be able to challenge democracy. There is whole political economy literature. But then I would even write in very recently that so what really is that economics is economic sense, economic theory, economic policy comes out of while understanding the relation between society and markets, being a pure capitalist. That's the pure capitalist approach. But then liberal values promoted through democracy would then be re-evaluated for a country like China, where the focus of the government is really on promoting markets and then strengthening relationship between society and markets to allow significant poverty reduction and to have sustainable economic growth rate. And so what really comes out, what rationally really comes out, that the country can be just like China, can be represented by a single party, what they call is dictatorship, whereas it is a certain governance strategy which is delivering economic results. So India is a democracy, but then India has identity politics and Hindutva movement going on. So really democracy not delivering. So not only that, being an empirical economist, you start understanding the non-linear relationship, but then the real translation of the variables of what the governance institutions really represent. So coming back to finance ministry, yes, this is represented through a banker, and mostly Mufti Ismail. And what would be the difference between Mufti Ismail and then Ishaq Dar, or our honorable finance minister Muhammad Aurangzeb? The difference is that Ishaq Dar is kind of a chartered accountant, and Muhammad Aurangzeb is a banker, whereas Mufti Ismail is one of the best economists. But then there is some kind of a limitation in understanding. Yes, being an economist, we will always would be more about real economic activity and tangible outcomes, macroeconomic outcomes, rather than really focusing on the indicators, financial variables, financial indicators to then achieve stabilization, and therefore there will be a friction shown to really go and have an effective agreement with International Monetary Fund, whereas a banker would be natural to then work with International Monetary Fund to then take Pakistan to a journey whereby when it is at a risk of financial default, and there was a risk of a recession, and now it's microeconomic stability, which is something of an ingenious achievement. And so, while at the same time there's another businessman, business community, working with my friend and colleague Ali Salman at Prime, Pakistan Research Institute of Market Economy. I mean, I would ask him simply that how did you know such great economics with new angles, with new perspectives?